good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're calling from, and welcome. My name is Hajar, and I'm very happy to be holding space for this afternoon session. So I could very well tell you what I do for work as a way to introduce myself, but I trust that you can find that information pretty easily. Instead, and for our purposes, I'd like to introduce myself as a fellow earthly being and a planetary flourishing advocate. And so, just like each one of you and the beautiful humans and more than humans outside of our windows, I am part of the Earth family. And this is in this kind of role that I'm holding space for all of us today. So this youth-led session is titled Birthing Compassionate Futures, and it is a pretty original session because it's not led just by myself, but by all of us present here today. So I'd really like to invite us to show up in our fullness and our wholeness, not just with our rational minds, but with all the other parts of us as well, including the heart, the gut, the parts of us that are responsible for action. And this is very important because this is not just an intellectual exercise, as you will see. It is a space of co-creation, and I'm really hoping that all of us feel excited to participate and contribute. So today's session really has three main objectives. The first one is to introduce the concept of protopia, which is not only a concept, it's also a tool that you can use to bring about transformative change in your own community and work. The second aim will be to highlight the boundless potential that collective imagination has in birthing compassionate futures, but also more sustainable, equitable futures where all life can thrive and flourish. And the third aim will be to shed light on the importance of embodiment and on personal transformation in bringing about the changes that we seek to see in the external world. So to get us started, I'd like to invite us to pop into the chat our names, where we're joining from, as well as one word to describe what we hope to experience during this session. Lovely. So we have Merida, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, joining us from Monterrey, Mexico. Anum joining us from New Delhi, hoping to experience a renewed sense of compassion. Eris from Washington, D.C., hoping to experience joy. And it's okay, Anum. And I didn't mention, but I'm from Casablanca, Morocco, and I'm hoping to experience togetherness today. All right. So moving on, the intention for today's session is to co-create a protopia, which is quite similar to a utopia in many ways, because it refers to a better world, besides that it aims to be realistic and actionable. So here, the protopia we will co-create will consist in imagining a world where care, empathy, and collaboration between humans and nature guide all of our actions and decisions. So what is a protopia? According to Dr. Alexander Laszlo, who I have lots of admiration for him and his work, a protopia provides practices, pathways, and ecosystemic designs for a desirable future that can be realized with the conditions and potentials available to us now. And so you may rightfully ask, how do we do this? Well, the first step in creating a protopia is to start with a question. So for our purposes today, the question is, how do we birth compassionate futures? Then we imagine collectively what these futures would look like and feel like. And the word feel here is very intentional and important because the aim is really to incorporate our senses, our feelings, our intuitions, and truly the entirety of our being into this exercise. And that way we can nourish the seeds that we're planting with energy that will allow it to flourish one day. So then we map pathways, ecosystemic designs, actors, resources, and interventions that will allow us to make that dream or that protopia a reality. We then convene and facilitate collaborations and co-creations amongst a variety of actors and stakeholders. And finally, we learn from that process and we course correct if needed. So because today's session is only about 40 to 50 minutes long, we sadly won't have time to go through all of these stages. Instead, what we will do is ask the question, what would compassionate futures look like and feel like? Then we will imagine those futures together, and then we will map transformations that need to happen in order for these futures to materialize. And these transformations really will map them in terms of head, meaning perceptions or cosmovisions, visions of the world that we live in, what transformations need to happen in those visions. Then shifts in values, meaning the heart, which values should we aim to cultivate as communities, as societies, for these compassionate futures to flourish. And finally, behaviors, actions. What shifts do we need to witness or to engage in terms of our very actions? And we can think about this in various scales, individual, all the way to the collective and the global. And usually when we map these pathways, we do them, we can think about, for instance, transformations that need to happen in education, in our relationship with technology, in the use of technology, in governance systems. But again, we won't have time to do this today. And if there is interest in partaking in a longer workshop, then I would be happy to offer that at a later time. But I'm really hoping that during this session, we can at least really sort of ground ourselves in that shared collective desired reality and start to identify the transformations that are needed to bring it forth. So, what do compassionate futures look like and feel like? And so here I'm proposing to lead us through a guided visualization of these desired compassionate futures. And so I will ask you to find a comfortable position, knowing that you have a space that is for you to really travel and journey through your inner world without being disturbed by external stimuli. And I'll give us a little moment to find that comfortable position and setting. And whenever we're ready, we're going to begin by closing our eyes and landing together in this present moment. And then very slowly and gently shifting our awareness from our minds to the body. And we may ask, how does it feel like to inhabit this body today? No need to look for an answer. If it emerges, great. If not, just remaining present with what is. Now very gently bringing our attention to the breath, feeling it coming and going as it nourishes our entire bodies. We can place our hand in our heart center and feel our heartbeat. Imagining it beating in harmony with the heartbeat of all beings, and with the heartbeat of Mother Earth herself. We let gratitude rise for the life force flowing through us and through everything around us. We let gratitude rise for the gift of this life that we share together. And from here, let us feel ourselves gently flowing from the present to the future. Imagine stepping into a world that is shaped by compassion. Feel the warmth of the sun, the gentle breeze, the harmony in the air. Look around you. What do you see? Notice how people interact, the kindness and the care that they demonstrate. And again, staying in the body, how does this feel to witness this compassionate future? Now we're turning our attention to the earth beneath our feet and really feeling its aliveness, its intelligence, and its vibrance. All around you, people and nature coexisting in harmony. What does this thriving future look like? How do humans live in balance with the more than human world? Now, picture a community gathering, everyone sharing, united by empathy and mutual care, every voice valued. What does justice and equity look like in this compassionate future? How does this shape governance and decision making? And as you look around and really absorb the empathy, the compassion all around you, both sights and sounds and feelings, you pause for a moment and feel the abundance and love flowing through you and all around you. Can you feel the pulse of compassion, not just as an idea, but as an embodied reality within you and in this world? What does it feel like to live in a future where compassion is central to everything, where it flows through individuals, communities, the entire planet? And now take a deep breath, holding on to the feeling of this compassionate world. Very slowly returning our awareness to the present moment, carrying the inspiration with you. And whenever you're ready, just gently opening your eyes, taking another deep breath all together. Thank you for partaking in this journey together. Now we're going to have the opportunity to share. So I'm going to pop the link into the chat for us for this Menti board. You also have, I believe, a QR code that you're able to scan with your phone if you'd like to. If you're having trouble accessing it, please let me know. And I'd be very happy to help write into the Menti your answer to the question. Here we are. So the question that we're contemplating here together is, in the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible. It's not really a question, it's more the beginning of a poem. So we're invited to contribute together to writing this poem. Here you can write as many answers as you feel inspired to. You can consider your relationship with yourself, what it means to be more compassionate with yourself, with other humans, and with more than human beings, meaning nature. You can also consider various scales from the individual, societal, the global, different settings, family, community, education, work, intergenerational relationships. And usually I like to invite folks to unmute themselves and share so we can hear each other's voice, but I'm not entirely sure it is possible with this platform, so I will do the reading. So in the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible, there is justice and peace for all. A presence of authentic and radical love. There is mutual care, solidarity, and love once again. In the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible, humanity prioritizes living in integrity with the values they say they have, living virtuously for the great good of the human family. In the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible, it is a happy future. In the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible, we heal with every being, with care, kindness, and passion. Compassion takes the center and core of all decision-making, showing up in everyone around me. In the more compassionate future my heart knows is possible, possibilities for change are fueled by access for all. Very beautiful. Thank you all. Please feel free to save this link if you'd like to access our poem. Again, the poem that we all co-wrote together. And we are going to head back here for the time being. All right, as the next stage, we are going to collaboratively map the shifts and transformations that need to happen in order for these compassionate futures to come into being. And for that, I will be sharing another link with you in the chat. And sharing the questions. So the two questions, not really questions, one question and then a guidance. But the core question is, what shifts are needed to birth these compassionate futures? And as mentioned previously, here we have a framework of head, heart, and hands for perceptions or cosmovisions, values or virtues, and then behaviors and actions. And so we'll stop sharing this for now and head over to our mirror board. And here it is. So if you're having any issues navigating this, please feel free to let me know through the chat. And we are going to be here for, let's say, 10 minutes, 15 if needed. So take your time. You can choose to focus on a single category. Let's say head, you're really interested in the cosmovisions shifts that are needed in order to birth compassionate futures. So you'll say, for instance, interconnectedness. So a vision of the earth as we're all interconnected. In a sense, we're all one. And so I'll be looking at the chat to see if anybody is experiencing some issues. Okay, I'm guessing if this is a little challenging for some of us, we can just write it in the chat. And I would be very happy to transfer these over to the sheet. And then something that may be a little helpful for this purpose is to think about how folks currently behave and then how they behaved in that future that you imagined. Or the virtues that are the core of the way our societies currently function versus the values that were at the core of the society you envisioned. And so I think this may be a little helpful in determining the pathway that is needed, both where we are today and where it is that we should be heading towards. And so I'm going to start reading. We still have about 5 minutes for this. We can also make it a tiny bit longer. But we have in the shifts for the head, or perceptions or cosmovisions, our ways of perceiving the world, interconnectedness, a sense of oneness, peace, so perceiving the world as a peaceful place, focusing on progress rather than completion. So being less focused on the destination and a little bit more on the journey itself, and perhaps the folks who are traveling alongside us, both human and more than human. Then we also have care, collaboration. In the category of shifts that need to happen in our heart space. So this is much more in terms of values and virtues, and we have moral perceptions, openness, having an open heart rather than a closed one, expansion rather than contraction, inclusion rather than exclusion, embracing change as opportunity rather than as a threat, and viewing pleasure as holistic, integrating everything. In the category of hands and actions, so far we have power of a loving embrace, followed by hugging, caring, healing, active engagement, connection. Don't know how to describe this as one behavior just yet. The most important things I've realized cannot really be expressed into words anyway. This is just an attempt for all of us. Intuitive, I'm seeing also in the shift in values. And this is quite interesting because one of the pervasive effects of modernity is to place the rational mind in this sort of supreme place compared to other ways of knowing. And so reconnecting with our intuition can also help in bringing forth more compassionate worlds and futures. Creativity for the shifts in behavior. Being perceptive for the shifts in cosmovisions. And again, I'd like to invite you for these few minutes that we have left on this Miro board to think about, if you're a student, your relationship with the educational system, with your teachers. What perceptions do you wish your teachers had, or when you imagined that more compassionate future? How was that? What was the cosmovision underlying that future? Same with virtues and actions. I think it can be helpful to think about the various settings or spaces that we navigate every day. Makes it a bit less theoretical. Generosity as a core virtue of compassionate futures as well. Playfulness in actions and shifts in behavior. I would tend to agree with this. There is too much. All right. So thank you all very, very much for partaking in this collaborative mapping of transformations needed to bring about compassionate futures. And it continues with beautiful words such as innocence and joy. Thank you all very, very much. Please feel free to also save this because we're co-creating. All of us are benefiting from this exercise, I'm sure. So going back to our presentation for the last few minutes together. We just completed the collaborative mapping. And then here I wanted to come back to the slide, which we've already seen earlier, simply to, yes, so this slide. Wanted to come back to this slide to kind of see all the different steps, which we won't have time to engage in today. But for you, if you'd like to create your protopia or do it with your community, your organization, your friends, for you to be able to do this, feel free to take a picture of it, or anyway, I think this whole session will be recorded. But we've just mapped pathways, even though we didn't do it from a sort of sectorial perspective. But the next step would be to identify actors in all of these different transformations that need to take place, to identify the resources that are needed in order for those shifts to take place, and the various interventions. So which actors need to work together, how will they intervene in order for these changes to come about? And this is, protopias really leave lots of room, or actually create lots of room for emergence. It is not a sort of mechanistic worldview of this is where we're at, this is where we're going, and this is how we'll get there. Of course, you're taking into consideration, the inner shifts that need to happen, the societal shifts, and you're also taking into consideration the fact that the world is uncertain. And so this is not an attempt to shape the world into something, but to enter another way of being and relating and organizing, acting together to bring about these compassionate futures. The following step would be to convene and facilitate collaborations and co-creations amongst these actors. And finally, to learn from that process simply. As we mentioned, it's the era we're navigating is extremely uncertain. And so there is no such thing as, making a mistake or an error. Errors actually become the compost for the flourishing of something better. And so it's really embracing this process as an entire learning journey and a development journey, both for the individual and the collective. As Mahatma Gandhi said, we have to be the change we wish to see in the world. And so I'd like to end this session with two questions, and you can pop the answer in the chat. You can take some time to journal on what you've experienced during this session today and to answer these two questions. So the first one is, what shift do I commit to embodying every day for the benefit of the whole Earth family? Just one shift. And you can go back to that mirror board, you can go back to the poem that we wrote together and just identify one single way of perceiving the world, one single value or virtue, one single action, or maybe multiple. But in my own experience, it's best to focus on one and really cultivate it. Just the same way you would take care of your garden, you nourish that seed every day. And we can only nourish these seeds through daily practices. And so this leads us to the second question. What daily practice will help me embody, so that's, on the one hand, but also spread the shift? How can I inspire others to also take on, that practice, that virtue, that behavior, that shift in perception? Because when we start to transform and to shift and to undergo a metamorphosis, we can inspire others to also do the same. And I truly believe that this is how we will bring these transformations to the world. And I'll go to the chat to see whether some of us feel inspired to answer this. But otherwise, I'd just like to, and we'll go back to the chat and I'll read some of the answers we're receiving. But I'd like to end by coming back to the very beginning, like really circling back to birthing compassionate futures. And you may be curious about the use of the word birthing. It is how each and every one of us came into being on this earth. We were birthed by our mothers. And the use of this word is quite intentional because usually in that setting, there is the mother, there is the newborn child, and often there is a midwife or a doula who is helping the birth of this newborn. And here I'd like you to really, if there is one thing to take with you, is that you are the three characters in the birthing. You are both, pushing and kind of, it's a painful process to birth compassionate futures. And the mother experiences this pain. It is also a fearful process for the baby. That's why we cry when we're born for physical, biological reasons, but also because of the shock that we just underwent. And, for the midwife, there is care, there is attention, there is a sort of guidance. And so we are, both the mother who's given birth to this compassionate future, the child who's being born into this compassionate future, and the doula, the midwife who accompanies both the mother and the child in this process. And so thank you all very much for attending this session. I do hope it was a fruitful one in any way. I will be trying to find you all who attended this session and following up with a few resources that I found very helpful myself. But Merida shared in the chat, I commit to compassion every day and I commit to embody this all the time. Thank you, Merida. May this commitment ripple out far and wide. I'll take a deep breath before reacting so I can be as caring as possible in my step in through life. Beautiful. And Eris commits to the process, understanding that change can be a catalyst for rebirth and building resilience. Very beautiful. All right, I don't want to keep you any longer. I commit. This is enough, I agree. With a blue heart. Thank you, April. Thank you all very much. I don't want to keep you any longer. Please do reach out and connect. I guess I can share with you my LinkedIn here. I don't know if that's easy at all. If you're willing to stay just a tiny bit longer. Thank you, Anum. Thank you so much. And to all those involved in co-creating this beautiful conference, thank you, thank you, thank you. The youth of today and tomorrow are boundlessly grateful to you. And here is my LinkedIn. All right. Beautiful rest of your day to all of you. Would love to connect. If you have questions or anything that I can help with, please don't hesitate to reach out. And wishing you all a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy this life. Spread compassion and spread love. And hopefully see you very soon. Bye-bye.